lead in, but I think some portion of what might matter to the group is maybe how this got started. So instead of just talking about social media, which I think probably everybody in the room hears about every 5 minutes, I kind of wanted to tell you how we got the program going, and that is really that 12 years ago, I graduated from college, and my first client was an electric co-op. And we were writing media plans, talking about what print ads should be where. Touchstone was kind of beginning, radio ads, all the traditional type of media. And I remember I worked with my father. He was doing this long before I did, and I remember saying, hey, you know, I feel like if we could just work for electric co-ops, it would be the best thing ever. Simply because if you do a good job for a co-op, they pay you on time, and they tell their neighboring co-op, and then you get to do it for them too. So 10 years down the road, and Barry Hart, who I've worked with, he's the statewide director in Missouri, he approached me in 2015, about the middle of 2015, and said, hey, Andy, we've been using these plans. We've been marketing to our members, you know, safety, member owners, you know, everything that we could think of talking about, but we're not reaching a certain demo that we want to reach. And he kind of gave me 2 points of attack. He said, hey, I want to reach the first-time home buyer, which is the age demo that you were looking at earlier, that 35-year-old person. And he said, I also really want to reach the influencers in our communities. I want our co-ops and our statewide association to have the first contact with the news media, for our statewide elected officials to know what's going on with co-ops first so that they can get the facts from the co-op. So I gave Barry a high five and said, I'll see what I can do. And 3 months later came back to Barry and said, hey, you know, I know you've heard this a million times, but we've got to get deeper into social media from a statewide perspective. So keep in mind right now I'm talking about the Missouri Association statewide. So Barry said, what do you want to do? And I said, just let us do it. We've had a good, long relationship. We understand co-ops. So he turned the keys to their statewide social media over to us. We started populating their Facebook feed, their Twitter feed, and their Instagram feed, because simply there was nobody at the statewide association that had the time to do it. So we were pulling content from all the sources that you all have. Missouri's a Touchstone member, so we were using Touchstone content. We were using NRECA content. We were finding local news that meant something to our member owners. We were branding it as the Missouri Statewide Association. We were posting it when we knew the most eyes were there. We were putting a few dollars to boost some posts behind posts that started getting some traction. And 45 days later, we had like tripled the fan base on the Facebook page. There was all kinds of eyeballs looking at it. And I had a co-op manager friend from Webster Electric in Missouri call me and say, hey, Andy, I'm tired of everybody telling me I need to be on social media. I don't have someone to do it in my office. It would be my executive secretary that did it. Can you just do it for me too? And I thought, whoa, this is a little bit different. Now we're at a local level for a distribution cooperative that has 12,000 meters. Hey, we'll give it a try, right? So this is a month and a half into 2016. We start working with the executive secretary at Webster Electric, populating the post on her Facebook page. So I'm going to get a little deeper into the process, but long story short, what we're doing and what I'm going to show you now, I think since Allison and I talked last, we've made it to 70 distribution co-ops that we're working with. And I got off the phone outside by the beautiful lake with some NRECA folks, and we're going to work with NRECA on some social media programs too. So we'll be able to share that content through all of the distribution co-ops and doing it for NRECA. So I'm kind of excited. It's a good day in Andy's world. A couple of these slides are relatively basic, but they're important for you all to know. And these numbers are old. I would estimate they're probably higher, but 50% of Americans are on Facebook. Every 60 seconds, 510 comments are posted, 293,000 status updates. And these 50% of Americans are spending nearly 40 minutes per day connecting on social media. So obviously that's not in one sitting. We're talking about somebody gets up and looks at their phone, or is in bed looking at their phone, or they look at their iPad while they're watching TV, right? Just another brief thing that I kind of like to touch on. So watching TV, it's estimated you'll spend 7 years and 8 months. pretty expensive medium. You can do that from a statewide level. Whether you want to buy TV at your distribution cooperative or not, might be a little bit expensive. I don't think we can brand Thanksgiving turkey with your distribution cooperative, but people spend a lot of time eating and grooming. Outside of that, social media is estimated you'll spend 5 years and 4 months looking at social media. So you've got a captive audience. Typically when I go talk to statewide bunches, I dig through the zip codes that are used by their statewide publication. So we did our best here, and I don't want anyone to hold this number to be, carved in stone, but we pulled out the larger populations of your state and found that there were still 700,000 remaining Facebook pages. So that doesn't mean that there's 700,000 separate people. That could be that one individual has a Facebook page, they have a Facebook page for their business, and they also have some other weird Facebook page where they stalk their friends and they don't want them to know about it, right? It happens. So that makes 3 pages. So we felt like not only can you reach some good portion of these 700,000 more rural Facebook pages, you could also use this social media to reach today's influencers. So I touched on that earlier. The news media, your elected officials. We dug through your House and Senate delegations. Over 80% of them are on some form of social media. And that little smaller bullet point below there is kind of even more important, but the number of their staffers that are on social media is nuts. It's like close to 100%. In Arkansas, who we work with, the legislative guy in Arkansas is now setting up meetings through his Twitter feed because he's sending a message to the young staffer in the office saying, can I come meet with our representative? And then kind of another interesting bullet point, and really why I enjoy coming and having this talk with you all, is that we actually have results. Everybody shows up and says, here's why you ought to do it. So I've got a year's worth of results to show you. And in that year, we figured out that over 70% of Missouri's electric cooperative staff, so when I say staff, I mean linemen, executive secretaries, statewide association, communicators, whomever it might be, over 70% of the staff in Missouri, and I'm going to refer to Missouri because that's the place where we have the full year-long study, are on social media. So what a great form of advocacy for the people in this room to get your employees and your staff and your linemen talking about your co-op. And then, I don't know why my question mark left where it was supposed to be, and then for cooperatives, why do we want to be there? Well, the basics. Everyone in this room knows this. We want to talk about safety and efficiency. We want to increase member awareness. We want to talk about time-sensitive information. Not always weather and outage stuff, sometimes policy stuff. A lot of our co-ops now are having us go out and talk about when they're going to work on the right-of-way. We've put graphics together so 3, 4, 5 days before someone's going to go out and work on spray lines or cut brush, we can go prepare that membership and actually target the zip code where that service territory is so that your member owners that are on social media will go, oh, okay, I saw that. It won't scare them. And then to be top of mind for electeds and influencers. Then there's your all's advantage. Obviously, the 7 cooperative principles, which you all know, kind of make everyone in the room stand out. Pretty important for us in what we do are these established relationships. So if you're Coca-Cola and you want to get on social media and you want to mean something to somebody, the only thing you really have is a good soda. You guys, everyone in this room, have the fact that you turn the lights on in their house, and you have for the last 50, 60 years, right? The last bullet point is the funnest one for us. I don't know of any other group that really needs to make an impact on social media that has the advantage of the people in this room. You know their phone numbers, and you even know where they live, which is pretty drastic. Ford Trucks had a big problem on Facebook because somebody got on there and talked about something to do with a wheel or something. It happened 2 years ago. They could do nothing but get back on social media and say, I apologize, please contact us. Please don't say this for everybody. Send us a direct message. You guys can pick up the phone and call the person and say, hey, I know your lights aren't coming on, but you didn't pay your bill. I mean, it's that easy, right? So We've had the instance where we've had the member owner at the end of the line at Osage Valley Electric get on and say, I hate you guys, my power's off, blah, 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 blah. And the member service director called and said, hey, your power is off. And it was a non-pay issue. They didn't pay. And that member owner got back on Facebook and said, oh my gosh, the cooperative called me. You know, they almost apologized. So you have an advantage that not too many people do. So the question that we all kind of sat back and scratched our heads in 2015 talking to Barry Hart was, how are we going to do this? We basically came up with the most important thing to do would be to listen. I think everybody feels like the first thing you need to do is set up all your social media feeds and start talking. And probably the most important thing would be to start listening to what your member owners are interested in. Find out what they're talking about. Find out what they're liking. Find out who their friends are, because that's what they're going to be interested in. If you can't make that connection when you go out there and start talking, they're not going to listen to you. After you find these things out, build a relationship. It's the only platform that you can talk two ways on. So it seems like the easy thing to do is say, I want to talk on social media, but I don't want the comments. I don't want people talking back to me. And that's really like killing the greatest thing about social media, and that is that we can have a two-way conversation. Once you have that two-way conversation, whether it be, hey, my power's out, I live at such and such, and you know, it might be this is not the right place to report your power outage, but thanks for your input, and here's where you could call to do it. Just the response gains a relationship. Third here, educate, entertain, share, and engage daily. How many people in this room are just member services? That's all you do? One. How many people in this room wear about 25 different hats? Okay. So when this whole thing started boiling over that distribution cooperatives could use our service, this was why. We knew, because we had done it, that there's an algorithm in this game, and it's boring, and I'm not going to bore everyone to death with it. But at the end of the day, if you're not posting nearly daily, 6 or 7 times a week, if you're not reacting or commenting on your comments, if you're not sharing your fans' content, you're losing weight in the algorithm. So unfortunately, we can't just wait till there's an outage and jump out there and go, hey, we got a power outage, we want to talk to our people, because there's nobody there. So what we have to do is start generating content that we can put out there that's meaningful to our members and put it out there every day. I know nobody in the room wants to hear that, but that's absolutely how Facebook works. In Missouri, we had a number of co-ops that were only getting on and talking about outages. So number one, the worst thing ever there was you scroll through their Facebook feed and it looks like they never had power on, right? But number two, nobody was there because they never gained any fan traction. You know, they had, I think that co-op had like 22,000 meters and they had like 1,200 fans. We've kind of reached a point where your meter base and 35% is very achievable. So if you have 10,000 meters, you can have 3,000, 3,500 Facebook fans. But you've got to be posting diligently. You've got to brand yourself. You've got to give your members content that they want to see. And then last here, and I don't say this, I'm not going to make light of this. This is probably the most important thing, but I think there's only a couple of co-ops up here. But be your own voice is important for 2 reasons. Number one, if you're not on social media, I'm not up here to give anyone a verbal spanking, but I will tell you that if you're not there, there are still people talking about you. It would be like if you were the economic development guy and they were going to put a new warehouse in your town that was going to employ 10,000 people and they didn't invite you to the meeting. That's what you're missing out here. You might as well be there. Even if you don't like what you're hearing, you need to hear what's said. Number two, Ann Harvey touched on this earlier. You guys do great things. Content is tough to come up with 6 days a week, but you all do so many awesome things that I think everyone in the room just takes for granted. we need to start talking about this stuff. The group as a whole needs to tell their neighboring co-op, hey, we worked with United Way last weekend, or we I don't know, boxed lunches for homeless people in the city of Minneapolis yesterday. Whatever you did, we need to tell that, and we need to tell it on social media. So this was the plan that we came up with and went back to Missouri and said, here's what we can do if more of the Missouri distribution cooperatives wanted to participate. It goes like this. We, ARC Media, will distribute and manage your local, statewide, and national messaging through your cooperative social media channels, 6+ posts per week. We brand every message to your distribution cooperative, so it looks like it's coming from you. No one would ever know the difference. We monitor and respond to comments 24/7, 365, which when we made this promise to Barry Hart, I thought, how in the hell are we going to do this? There was about 4 of us, and we took schedules. So there was literally somebody watching this all night long every third night. So since then, we have hired a number of military wives that are trained in social media. One of our military wives got shipped over to South Korea, so her day is our night. So she's watching all of our Facebook and Twitter feeds all night for us. And then here, act as if, maybe the most important thing on the list. So after we've built the content, after we've scheduled the content for a co-op communicator can go out and look at these posts that are going to go out over the next 5 or 6 days. That co-op communicator could delete a post, could edit a post, could take some local post that they've got and delete ours and put that in there, right? It's really important that we get the really, really local content that I won't have, only the people in the room would have, but we populate it for the rest of the week. If you can get the one local piece of content, you get rid of us and you put it in there, right? While after everything's scheduled, after everything's ready to go, we've got a couple of people that act like the co-op on Facebook. So we learn what your zip codes are. We learn what schools are in your service territory. We learn what municipalities might be in your service territory. We learn what hospitals are in there. And we go out and like comments that they make. If the school says our state volleyball team won the state championship, or our high school won the state championship, we go out and like that. So now all of a sudden you're interacting with the people within your service territory, and they feel like they have a connection with your co-op. We develop a crisis communication plan for monitoring and support. There's a big concern in Missouri of what happens when there's a negative comment. What happens when we have a power outage? So when there's a power outage in Missouri or Arkansas or Ohio or Kansas, wherever we're working, we send an email. Typically, we'll watch the weather and we'll do some lead up to a power outage. So if it's wintertime and there's an ice storm coming, we'll start posting generator safety content with your brand and your logo on it. Once something happens, and it happens, we go black. And then we expect the communicator or the manager to pick up the keyboard and start talking to those member owners. And then monthly social media report card. We felt like it was important to know, A, are we talking to more members? B, are we engaging more members? And C, is all of this work worth it? Because it does take a lot of work behind the scenes to come up with all of this content. So this is what goes on at our office on a daily basis. Finished leftovers. In other words, nobody at our shop ever gets everything done because it goes on all day, every day. I want to show you this because if someone in the room wants to do exactly what we're doing, I want you to do it. I think success as a whole will work even if there's co-ops that are going to work with us or not work with us. This is what goes down. The first thing we do is respond to messages. So first thing in the morning, we're going to respond to all the Facebook messages that didn't get responded to overnight. So if there are urgent messages, they get responded to immediately. If there's a message that says, how do I get in touch with my co-op? It might be that we go out and just post your phone number and here's the office hours. The third thing is we monitor. We feel like it's really important to know who, what, and where is talking about your co-op. We market and we advertise. So When we make a post, we've found that it's worthless to put money behind it unless it gets initial traction. So if you go out and you make a post about your cooperative working with United Way, let's say, if you immediately put $20 behind it to reach a certain amount of zip codes and the message isn't good and your members aren't going to react to it, you've wasted your money. So we make the post and we see, oh, this post is starting to get some traction. It was written well, the image works, the video's good, the gift's good. Then we put a couple dollars behind it, maybe to reach your specific service area zip code. We create content. We educate ourselves on the industry and the community. We create images. We watch for friends and foes. Entergy is a group out of Arkansas. We search for inspiration. So there's a whole lot of me paying interns to search on Google. It really drives me nuts, but that's the way this works. We study our own brand. So I tell most every group we use the University of Missouri J School as our greatest asset. So they have a great journalism school. We typically get 4 or 5 interns for each semester that come into our office, and they sit around a table and they come up with new ideas for content. The reason that all came about was because that is the age category that we were trying to talk to. So we felt like the best way to reach that age demo was to get that age demo writing some of our content. So obviously we have interns and our whole staff studying the brands of each one of the cooperatives that we're working with. We run the social data, which I'll show you how the data turns out at the end. We want to know how many impressions, engagements, and clicks we're getting. We engage the audience. So this is where I was talking about we go out and we act as if the co-op. We're going to like and share and comment on, might be a school district or it might be a hospital. We audit ourselves to see if we're doing a good job. We collaborate internally, and we report. That's what goes down at the ARC office. And here's the results from it. So in 2015, the cooperatives that we worked with in Missouri made 3.7 million impressions. They had 63,000 engagements, 8,000 link clicks, and 7,600 new fans. We started working with those same group of cooperatives in 2016. They made 18 million impressions, 157,000 engagements, 31,000 link clicks, and they grew by 29,000 fans. So I think we started with a fan base of somewhere around 25,000, and so we doubled it in 1 year's time. I know those numbers they're good. I love talking to you and showing you that the numbers are great, but I don't think the numbers are maybe the most important thing on the wall. The most important thing that tells me is that cooperative member owners are on Facebook. I mean, if there's that many more people interested in what a co-op has to say, they're there. Their eyeballs are there. So I thought I'd go through a couple of posts with you guys just to give you an idea, whether you want to brand your post, whatever. This is how we brand our post. Each co-op comes up with the color they want to use. This happens to be for Webster Electric Cooperative. This was a post where Webster Electric sent us a quick email and said, hey, we're trying to hire somebody. Actually, they're trying to hire a full-time member services representative. We put the post out. It got a little traction. I think we put $10 behind this post. It reached 3,678 people. 113 likes, 900 post clicks, and 1 upset HR manager. The HR manager called us on Monday morning and said, hey, can we kill that ad? I think we're good on resumes. This is Osage Valley Electric Cooperative, and just something I wanted to show you guys, something you could write down, go home, give it a test on your own Facebook page. But one thing that has worked very well for us has simply been, how long have you been a member owner of your cooperative? You will be amazed at how many people will get on there and say, well, I've been in this service territory for 2 decades, and then it's a challenge. And then somebody will go, well, my grandma's been here since they brought the lights to them. And 75 comments later, and it really was a nothing, but you're building a relationship with your member owners. That's Pokemon Go, we don't need to talk about that. And then contest. I know Ann spoke on contest, and And we worked with the contest that she was talking about with all the cooperatives that we work with that are Touchstone members. We obviously supported their contest and ran it. This was a statewide contest that we ran for Lady Antebellum tickets. And once again, shows you how many people are interested. We specifically targeted this co-op service territory zip codes, and we reached 96,000 people with 4 tickets to the state fair. So this gets a little bit more meaty. This is what I was talking about. We've worked with the Missouri co-ops. We've built the eyeballs up, right? And then there comes a time when you either have a legislative issue you need to talk about, you have a power outage you need to talk about, whatever it might be. That really kind of comes down, the power outage comes down to the local co-op. So this is more bragging rights to us than the numbers that I showed you earlier. Intercounty Electric Cooperative, right in the heart of Missouri, Ozark Mountains, beautiful area. I think there's areas where, you know, they average like 2 meters per mile or something. But anyways, they had an outage. We had been working with them for 9 months preceding this outage. They got on and gave an outage update. This was the first one. It was at 2:50 in the afternoon. Just a simple, there is an outage due to the weight of the ice on the lines. They reached 11,000 people. Now watch this. The next one, the manager got on. You guys can't read that, but that is the manager saying, please call in and report, and he put some pictures on there. They reached 11,000 people. This is the next morning. The manager gets back on. Good morning. As the sun rises on central Missouri, blah, 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 blah. This post reaches 41,000 people. The co-op has 18 or 19,000 meters. The coolest thing I've heard in the last 2 years that we've been doing this program is Aaron, the manager of this co-op, calling me and saying, hey, Andy, I wasn't sure if our phone lines were out for a minute, because he felt like he had so many fewer phone calls because he was updating his service territory with what was going on with the ice storm. So that meant a lot to us. In that storm, we reached 1.8 million Missouri member owners. 37,000 of them either asked a question, shared, liked, or engaged with us. 6,300 link clicks. So the link click thing real quick goes back to, I believe, your question to Ann Harvey, which was about using Facebook versus websites, or could Facebook drive member owners to your website? And that is the link click thing. That is a lot of what we do. We like to go back to the co-ops and ask if they will share their website stats with us, because we know we can put a post up that might be about Smart Hub. It might be about a safety or efficiency program that you're running at your co-op that you have a page on your website about. So we can put a link in a post, boost it a little bit, and then see what kind of traffic you get back to your website. So this is the reporting that we do, and this is just the Missouri Electric Cooperatives, but this shows you kind of how the breakdown of total fans. I think they started with 300 fans and ended as of yesterday with 8,400 fans, and that's just at the statewide level. And then there's audience engagement. I should have taken the ridiculous percentage off of there, but remember when Missouri started with us, they only had 300 fans, so it's not really a good comparison. But their audience engagement just at the statewide level last year, they made 57,000 engagements. So that's a pretty big number. And then the total impressions from the statewide was 4.5 million. The reason I wanted to show the room these slides is this is how we're learning. This is what we look at every day to find out if each post worked or didn't work. And the most important one is this. So every morning we get up and we know what the top post was we made for all 70 co-ops. If we can know what the top post we made was for all 70 co-ops, we can pull that post off the top, right? And we can rebrand it for just about any co-op in the room and share it with you guys and see if it works for your member owners.
Hey, Andy, quick question.
Sure.
How do you aggregate all that? Are you using software that's already built, or have you guys customized that?
We have customized the software. So at first we went to a group that was an old college buddy of mine that went to Mizzou. He's in Chicago, and they were doing social media data. That's all they were doing. And that was for about the first year. And it worked fine, but then we had co-ops started asking us for a little bit deeper information. We had a statewide wanted to break things out by their districts and not their zip codes. And so we went back to the same group, and they kind of formatted something for us. And that was the first time that, I mean, I'm in the marketing world, so the biggest cost in my world is travel and an office, right? So the first time I really had to spend money on my business was going back to Chicago and saying, hey guys, you know, I think we've got something legit here. We need to provide the co-ops with the most data we can get them. And so they kind of rewrote their software to fit what we were needing. So it's really neat that we can, at the end of every month, share with the co-ops that we're working with all of this data. And then 9 times out of 10, what a communicator or member services or executive secretary, whoever we're working with, they'll then get up and walk into their board meeting once a month and go, hey, look what I did. And that's exactly what we want. You know, we exist in the shadows. Our idea is to help the people in the room do this daily maintenance so that you can go out and get 1 or 2 really good posts a week and then walk into your board and say, hey, look, I did this, which is perfect. And then these are some demo figures that we share. So, you know, obviously page fans, people reach, people engage. That's pretty basic stuff. And then that's my Minnesota hockey hair thing. I got one story to tell you, and I want to answer any questions that I can, but I told my son where I was going. He's a big hockey player, and he said, Dad, can you please put the Minnesota hockey hair thing in your presentation? So this is it. And so thanks to your Minnesota hockey hair group, the one with the goofy hair, that's my kid. And his mother only allows this to happen in the summertime because she's a school teacher. So he needs a haircut, doesn't he? So does anyone have any questions about the process from your distribution cooperative level or the process that we have at our shop? How was the boat ride? I saw you guys leaving last night. I was jealous. 0 questions. Well, I'm readily available. Allison knows how to find me. If anyone has any interest or questions, we have worked with a number of co-ops in a number of states that have called and said, hey, Andy, I don't think our board wants to just turn this over to you, but can you help us? Can you talk us through how you do what you do? And we do it all the time. You made it. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm questionless.
Well, on the 6 posts a week or a post every day, have you had any pushback saying that's maybe a little bit much? I mean, how did you get to this, posting something every day? Because I guess it's is it like you're getting too much?
It seems like a lot. I agree.
Yeah.
And the only reason we got 6 posts a day is because we knew that that's where the algorithm stood that we would gain the most weight. So if we were out there 6 times a day, more and more eyeballs are going to start seeing us. Now, that doesn't mean, keep in mind, just because you're on Facebook doesn't mean you're going to see that post. So if you have 3,000 Facebook fans and we put a post out there, not all 3,000 of your Facebook fans are going to see that post. They're not going to see you 6 times a week. They won't get overwhelmed with your message. The other thing is, I feel like we've been able to build enough topics that they're not just seeing safety, they're not just seeing efficiency, they're seeing member owner stuff, they're seeing some local news stuff. Sometimes we post about what your local sporting team would do. So it's not just about your co-op, it's more feel-good stuff. We use a lot of Touchstone stuff, so they're not seeing the same thing all the time. They will see your brand though, and I feel like that's what we want. Sure.
Talking a lot about Facebook, but what about the other, social media platforms
Sure.
I know Twitter is, our Facebook pushes to Twitter, and that works, but if somebody's only on Twitter and they're not on Facebook, well then,
Yeah.
they can't get to it. Do you do, and I know like Snapchat is, my kids that are 20 and 27, they're seldom go to Facebook because
Right.
it's a little too public. They like to pick and choose what they want.
So the reason we started with Facebook was because the most eyeballs were there. It was the easiest target. And being that we're a little bit inherently rural in the room, and our age demo is inherently a little bit higher, that was the first target. That's where the most people are. We did go down the Twitter path. So in all the states that we work with, we do run the Twitter for the statewide association. And we aggregate any co-op that wants to participate in Twitter with that content. So we do also provide Twitter content. It is not as local as the Facebook content. Twitter seems to walk a good path of influencers. So your news media is going to be on Twitter, your legislators, your elected officials are all going to be there. So sometimes that content verges a little bit more on, I hate to say political content because it's not political content that would like raise a red flag. It's just, here's what's going on in the news today type thing. And then from a statewide level, everywhere except for in Ohio, we have not worked with any one co-op the same. And I don't think it's possible. There's no one size fits all. Every co-op is different. In Missouri, we do a statewide Instagram deal too, and it works very well. There's a lot of content there as far as images that we've been using. If a co-op wanted to participate in that in Missouri, they can as well. Some Ohio co-ops we are actually populating unique Instagram feeds for. Snapchat, the only thing we've done to date is Arkansas statewide did a Snapchat filter for their youth tour guys that are there right now. We did that for them. A lot of this kind of boils down to sitting down and saying, what are your needs at your co-op? And this is what we do every day, and here's how we might be able to make your life easier. You know, the co-op connections card. We just wrote a once a week plan for Ohio co-op that is all over their co-op connections card. They have a whole lot of people participating in it, and so we said, hey, we'll brand this up for you, we'll put it out for you. We used a bunch of Ann's content and we scheduled it for the whole year for them and said, here you go. The only thing that we would ever do there after those were scheduled would be to maybe change the times. For whatever reason, eyeballs on social media fluctuate. And we're watching it all the time, and no one would expect anyone in this room to watch it. It's boring, but it's a fact that in the wintertime, there's more eyeballs on Facebook a little bit earlier in the evening. It might be 7 o'clock, right? In the summertime, it gets a little bit later. So we kind of move post literally minutes to make sure that the most eyeballs are going to be there to see it. So those are the social platforms that we're kind of diving into. Still heavy Facebook because we feel like the most people are there. Biggest bang for your buck.
Andy, could you talk a little more about any added value you see or risks you see about trying to work together in the models you set up, kind of as
Sure.
several co-ops in a state or all the co-ops in this, working together as opposed to relationships with individual co-ops?
Sure. So here's what's happened from a statewide perspective and from an individual perspective. Number one, I can offer my services easier and at a much better rate for a number of co-ops. Number two, everyone in this room is going to have to get up and go back to their computer and do what we just talked about individually, as opposed to possibly one person or one group helping you do that. So if we can use content across the cooperatives, if I make a post on ABC Co-op today that has to do with efficiency, the neighboring co-op would be proud to be a member owner, and the neighboring co-op would be some bit of local news, right? These would all be branded to your specific co-op. If these posts work, I can take that content and go use one of those back at your co-op 2 weeks later when your members don't know it. Right now, there is no real great way for everyone in this room to share the content that they either build or that they find, right? We build some content, we find some content, but what we've become is kind of the sharing resource We're making it and we're holding it and we're seeing what works and we're taking what works out and we're giving it to you guys knowing that it already works. And then the greatest thing from a statewide perspective is we're going to be able to talk to more eyeballs if we keep a concentration on a certain, if people are seeing the message and it maintains some sort of continuity, we'll be able to grow the base a little bit higher. No one is going to see your co-op and know that co-op 50 miles down the road made the same post 3 weeks ago. But we'll be able to grow the numbers from a statewide perspective a lot greater than just each person doing the same amount of work in this room. And this kind of touches on, it's not a touchy subject, it's a fact, right? There are legislative issues that happen and they affect everyone in this room and every one of your member owners. In Missouri, the timing just happened to be right that we started working with this program, and our legislation came up with a net metering plan that would have had a very negative impact on our member owners. We were able to set up a separate net metering Facebook page and simply share the facts. And when we shared these facts, we were able to go one time to a manager or to a communications person like you all and say, are you okay with this content? Every co-op that gave us the thumbs up, which was all of them, we were then able to share statewide information that was going to affect every co-op member at the end of the line across all of these platforms instead of you all having to do it. Instead of someone having to send an email to every person in this room and then every person in this room having to make sure they went and did it that day, we were able to do it for them. That answer your question?
Thank you. Any particular downsides to that?
The only real downside that I can see from my perspective is there's such a range of co-ops, just like in this room. Some people want very hands-on service, and some people don't want to be hands-on. And I see the downside is the opposite of maybe what everyone in the room would see it. We have had some co-ops that just go, holy smokes, what Andy's doing is working. See you later. And that is not at all what we want. So we've had a couple of people we've had to call and go, hey, I know you trust us. I know you like what we're putting on your social media feed, but you still need to go out there every once in a while and make sure you're looking at our content so that you like it. I mean, we're not perfect. The best thing about what's going on here is we can delete anything in 2 seconds, right? This isn't print or anything, but we're not perfect. So I want you guys, I want them to look at it. And number 2, the local post means so much more. It makes us look like fools. We spend our whole life generating content and putting stuff out there, and then one person at a co-op goes and gets a picture of a little girl at a Christmas parade, and that thing goes crazy. And we know that it's because we've been building this platform up, but I hate to see it. The drawback would be a communicator that walks away and says, have at it. Any other? Sure.
Can you speak a little bit to the negativity? I think that's one of the fear of some of us that don't have the resources to monitor 24/7. If somebody gets on there, and we've had a few where they'll just run on some tirade that's completely goofy. But I really like the idea of it being monitored all the time.
Yeah, so there's a number of options. Someone is going to say something negative about your co-op on Facebook. It is a given. People get upset and it happens. We have always taken the stance of the quicker you react to that, the better off you are. If you let that dangle out there, there's a greater chance that that's going to start spiraling into other people saying the same thing, right? So we always try and go out and say, hey, we appreciate your comment. Would you like to have a conversation offline? We'd love to call you. We'd love to send you a private message, right? Some people don't go away. And that's kind of a really great other side of what's going on here, that in Arkansas, for instance, we had a co-op manager who everyone in the room would know his name, who built a new house, and he had someone get on there and talk about how their rates were so high and that's why this manager could build a big new house, right? And this person wouldn't go away. Well, it was on a post about a storm. So we control 14 other Arkansas cooperatives' Facebook pages. So do you know how quick that comment got buried? Because all I had to do was go to the other co-op Facebook page and say, hey, such and such Arkansas cooperative, nice work getting your power restored. I could do it from 14 other co-op pages, and then you only see the top 3 of those posts most of the time, and it's gone. It's what we call a disappearing act. But it works. And we have had, the first thing I would urge anybody in the room, if you have a Facebook page, is to go out and make sure you have a policy out there that says if you're going to use profanity, if you're going to be negative, we have the right to delete your comment, because you are going to get the person that doesn't pay their bill every month and gets upset with you and says something. And at some point it does get to, hey, delete, see you later, and then you ban the user and they're gone. But 9 times out of 10, you can react to them, you can give them a phone call, you can send them a quick private message, and they seem to be happy.
And we've had a couple that, because of that advantage you mentioned, that we do know who they are, we do know where they live, that eventually I was able to actually have a conversation with them and address some of their concerns, and they did seem to quit doing it.
Sure. It seems like every page that we deal with has a couple of what we call frequent flyers. They're just grumpy people. I don't know, man. They get up on the wrong side of bed every day, right? But then there has been a couple of co-ops. We had a co-op, for instance, in Missouri that all of a sudden started getting all kinds of rate questions. Why is my bill so high? And it was a number of comments, to the point where I called the manager on a Sunday afternoon and said, what's going on here? And they had changed something in their meter. The rate, it really was wrong. They had to go back and resend that billing cycle out because there was a problem. And those people were happy as could be. They felt like they had a voice in their co-op. They said there was a problem, the problem got fixed, and they were good. But it's a really great way to learn about your co-op, just seeing what members are saying about you.
Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else? I hope I didn't bore you too much. I think some of what was up here Allison has, she can share, and she knows how to find me, so wish me luck. I'm going to drive my rental Camaro back down to Minneapolis, St. Paul.
And you're going to meet your flight by 6:15, right?
I hope. Is that possible?
He will. I told him just to go fast. Go fast before you hit the Twin Cities.
It was the only car they had left at the airport, I guess, because of the hailstorm. So, yeah.
Well, just, drive carefully.
Thank you, Andy. Let's give him a... And tomorrow morning, this is one thing I want to dive deeper into. We have the early morning social media